Care Chats. Care Chats with Tanya, Mark, and Nick. Care Chats. Care Chats with Tanya, Mark, and Nick. Grab a mug of care and join us for some Care Chats with Tanya, Mark, and Nick.
Yes, please.
All right, so we're back again with Leah Garza for part 2 of our conversation. And last week we talked about their Akashic record practice and mentorship programs. And we're here to talk about their other program, Living Systems.
Living Systems. I've always wanted to do that.
You're going to have to pay for some rights. Pay for the rights for that one, though. Yeah. Thanks for having me back.
So tell us about Living Systems. What's it all about? Where'd it come from?
Yeah. So Living Systems is quite different from the Akashic mentorship. I would say it's more of an academic course. It is not a spiritual practice. It's largely like lecture based, and it's a year-long container that I created in 2021 to offer alternative concepts and ideas for people that are feeling extreme fatigue from social justice. I have been I'm actually just finishing my PhD at Pacifica Graduate Institute, and my program is in community liberation, indigenous, and eco-psychology. And I was very moved by like the coursework and the curriculum of the school, and there were so many things about it that I was like, oh, my community would love to know these things or have access to these things, but unless if you enroll in a PhD program, you probably are not going to be reading these things or getting access to these materials. And so I wanted to create something for the public. And this happened, 2020 was a stunning year for observing, in my opinion, the failure of social justice and like racial justice movements and anti-carceral movements. It was an especially challenging time for white people to come into awareness of, participation in white supremacy culture. And because I'm an Akashic practitioner and I have a devotion to this loving energy, I believed that there must be a different way to bring people online than through shame and coercion. And I just believe that it can't only be this way. There's an indigenous scholar named Leanne Simpson she's from Canada, and she's Anishinaabe, and she says in her book, As We've Always Done, shame is a tool of settler colonialism. They taught us to hate our bodies. And so she's speaking specifically to her indigenous students, but she's spot on that like one of the, strategies of colonialism and coloniality is to use shame to control masses. And so we can see that in so many aspects of our identities. And so I observed like the racial justice movement of 2020 to be deeply shame-based, and that might work for some people. This sure as hell does not work for me. And what I know about humans is that they're all emotional, sentient, soft animal bodies, and most people don't work well with shame. So when I started studying decoloniality, I realized that it is, in a sense, it's apolitical, but it's political, but it's also a movement that is inherently loving if we understand love to be like the respect for the dignity of all life. Like that in and of itself is loving in my Akashic perspective. So I wanted to share, like, how do we build movement? How do we build ontology? How do we build thought around decoloniality versus social justice? And so I took the concepts of this, the curriculum I was learning, and I built this 1-year framework. And again, it had to be a year because one of the things that my professors said on the first day at Pacifica is that the curriculum is psychoactive. It works on you from the inside out. And so you could take a 1 weekend workshop and you can cognitively understand the concepts of decoloniality or ontology or whatever we're studying, but you will not bring it into your body unless if you spend a lot of time with it. And if you don't bring it into your body, then what's the point? Like you're just like letting something go in one ear and out the other. So what would happen if we spent a year in community, like chewing on these concepts, holding them up against different like experiences or, like testing them. And so that's how Living Systems was born.
Yeah, I love that idea. One of my spiritual teachers used to talk about her teachings as concentrate. That like you take it in as concentrate, and it's over time it just kind of expands. Yeah. And I also really appreciate you naming shame and the way that colonialism really uses that as a tool. And I would say as a white person that I also experienced that through colonialism and organized religion. That's shame is a tool that is used to control and to manipulate, right? And and also as a psychotherapist, I see that is such it's such a huge weapon and a huge wound for so many queer people, and just the ways that governmental systems, organized religion, and then the people who have been the victims of that then use that as a weapon against their own, whether it be parents against children or teachers against students or, whatever hierarchical organism we're looking at. It's like shame is so huge.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that I was awakened to in my study of decoloniality. And I guess if we'll in the social justice paradigm, there's a forever battle between the oppressor and the oppressed, and it's believed that the oppressor has the power and the privilege, and they are the ones that cause the harm. And that's absolutely true. And they are also confined to the box that has been constructed for them within colonialism. And so, and if people want to learn more about that, I urge them to read, Frantz Fanon, read Albert Memmi, to get an idea of like what I'm talking about. It cannot be as simple as the oppressors are just chill being these vile beasts. Everyone has had to go through the meat grinder of the colonial identity that there is imposed upon them. And that includes shame for everybody.
Yeah. For our listeners, Living Systems, I am co-enrolled in Akashic Record Mentorship and Living Systems. And I know that Leah identified Living Systems as as primarily academic. And I will say as a person enrolled that, yes, it has been academic and it has also been spiritual. And for me, in the sense that as a person who chose to begin their journey really early in decol, I was at a place where I'm like, well, where are the people? Where are the other people who might be thinking this way or living this way or curious about what it means to live in a more mindful, aware way, I guess is what feels right in this moment to say. And it's been incredible to receive the academia portion and also be in community with like-minded folks, because we have opportunities in Living Systems to come together outside of lecture where we can check in and share and, just coexist together. And that has been incredible to me. And it also has felt like, wow, not only did the universe say, yes, we can put you with people that you share in common with, but we're going to make sure that these people are spread out everywhere, because that's literally the case. Like most of the people in this program, with an exception of, here and there, are local, but it has also been beautiful to be like, oh, wow, there's someone in Virginia or Maine or Seattle that is also, and I feel like as a practitioner myself, to me, that's the amplification of, I will just say it. I feel like it's activism. When we come together and take care of ourselves, yes, wow. And then when we come together as a group, it's another kapow. And then when we recognize that we're coming together from all different places, I feel like there's this behind the scenes background energy vibes going out there around, spreading, if you will, or sharing this medicine. So yeah, I want to dip that in there to what my experience has been like and continues to be like. Again, naming this medicine of bridging people together and community.
It has definitely connected a network of people. I mean, at this point, there are like 300 plus alumni, and they're all over the world, and they stay in touch, and they, do projects together, and it's wild to watch the relationships that have formed through these concepts. Yeah.
That's why you get so many shout outs, by the way, from all the guests we've had, is because everyone's finding each other and we're like, thank you, Leah.
I love that has happened. Yeah.
It also feels like a continuation of the exploration of non-dualism, like we were talking about before as well. That just from a maybe a more concrete perspective, instead of from the spiritual perspective, looking at it from a socio-political, cultural perspective.
Yeah, I guess I would say also that, like, I'm one scholar thinker among tons of them that have their own perspective on what decoloniality is. There are certainly schools of thought that I resonate with, and then others that I do not resonate with. It's really hard to pin down a definition for decoloniality. So instead, we name like the qualities of what I think the qualities are of it. Because it can't be a formula. It can't be a one size fits all ever. That would be actually very colonial. Mm-hmm. So it's going to look differently everywhere. But for me, it's largely influenced by my Akashic perspective and what I believe reality to be and what's possible there. Yeah.
Can you share what some of those qualities are?
Yeah, I believe that. So decoloniality is one of the things that we talk about early on in the class, is that there's a difference between the terms colonization, colonialism, and coloniality. The colonization is like the physical act of taking over a land or people by force. And that can be through war, genocide, through rape, through usurpation, through extraction. But it's the physical act. And colonialism is a philosophical and an economic framework that marries states to lands for the purpose of extraction of resources, whatever that might be, whether it's a natural resource, whether it's a people as a resource, whether it's the land itself. And coloniality refers to this long-lasting impact that colonialism and colonization have had on our ways of being, on our sense of reality. And so these are very like long after colonization could be over. So for example, like the French colonized Vietnam, that is not the case of settler colonialism, because the French were evicted from Vietnam, and Vietnam is now its own sovereign place, although it has long-standing French influence in the food, in the culture, in the language even. And that would be like a remnant of coloniality. That would be an example of that. So like when you get a banh mi sandwich and it's on a baguette, mm-hmm. that came from that influence. That's a very delicious and benign description of coloniality. But the ways that we impose binaries, identities, extraction, consumerism, individualism, hierarchies, carcerality, all of these aspects that just seem like natural parts of our culture are actually constructs of coloniality that we impose. We have physical structures of carcerality, so we have like actual prisons and actual police, systems, but then we have like the coloniality version of it, which is like we police each other. We tone police each other. We like judge each other. We have exclusionary practices. We punish each other just in our cultural norms. Before I studied any of this, I studied linguistics. And one of the things that was fascinating to me in linguistics is this idea of cognitive metaphor, that we have metaphors that exist in our deep, deep structure. So we're not even aware that we have them, but they are reflections of coloniality in our being. So for example, we conceive of arguments or debates the same way we conceive of war. You can win an argument, you can win a war, you can lose, you can kill, you can do all these things. So right off the bat, interpersonal communication is going to have the energy of war. And that is a colonial construct. That's an example of coloniality. So like when you're teaching a kid to go to school and practice their public speaking assignment or whatever, or to practice their debate, you're really preparing them for war. And we don't realize that we do that. So decoloniality is the undoing of those things. It's going to look different everywhere. But some of the things that I believe to be true about decoloniality is that it has to be local. So like wherever you're practicing or existing, you're in your local sphere. And right now, local can mean on the internet even. So like my sphere can be the internet, but it's my community. So you have a queer spirit community where you impact and inform and influence the people here. I've listened to some of your podcasts, but I don't really feel like I'm a part of this community. I don't know it well. I have only met you for the first time today, Nick. So it would not be decolonial. It would be colonial of me to come in and say, here's what your whole community needs to do. I'm not local to it. You all are local to it. You can make those choices. Decoloniality requires you to have an imagination that pushes past the colonial imagination. That's really important. And people who are hard pressed and hard married to social justice really hate that, because social justice is based on urgent action. So like, I don't have time to dream. I don't have time to imagine. We're in crisis right now. Go do the thing. But if you don't spend the time to push the boundaries of the imagination, whenever you go out and do the thing, you're going to reproduce something of the thing. You're going to recreate it in some way. You have to like inform and infuse something else into it before you go out and do. So imagination is really important. A lot of people think that decoloniality means indigenous or return to indigenous, and it can, but it also doesn't. And something that has happened to everyone in the United States, with the exception of like many indigenous groups, is that colonialism has obscured the histories and lineages of everybody, from white people with power to African people who have been brought here through enslavement, even to Native American people who have, like had their histories erased and totally stripped from them. I looked at like an 1880 census of because I was trying to track my genealogy, and I think it's my great grandfather was listed as a hunter as his profession. He was indigenous from the Rio Grande Valley, but like all we know about him is that he did not speak English or Spanish and was a hunter. So like the way that like now this whole being, this person has just been obscured into like a form where he's just like a hunter. That's all I know about him. That has happened to everyone. Mm-hmm. And so the idea that we can all become indigenous in some cultural way, to me, is not possible. Some people for sure can. But it also helps us, like if we go back to that idea of like everyone belongs, then like what does it mean to be like indigenous to the planet then? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. There are other things too that are kind of evading my mind right now, but we talk about this like for a year.
We sure do. And it is, we're just finished up. We just finished up our recent cohort, and I know it's TBD as to when the next cohort will be available. But thank you so much, Leah, for, again, sharing this very potent medicine that is, very timely in the world that we're navigating right now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, let's just take a breath into all of that
I know.
medicine that was dropped. And I'm really feeling it in my body. So thank you. Thank you.
That's what it feels like every time you attend a live lecture with Leah on living systems as well. It drops in, there's that deep invite. So really, y'all, thank you, Leah. And yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, for those of you listening, if you want to check out this work, you can go to wearelivingsystems.com and find more about Leah and this work, as well as the Akashic Record mentorship at crystalsofaltamira.com. And otherwise, you can join us with Queer Spirit for a care circle on the first Saturday of the month at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, and a third Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific and 8 p.m. Eastern for a care circle and community. Otherwise, let's continue to take care of ourselves and each other.
Care Chats with Tanya, Mark, and Nick.